Welcome to In the Funnel. My name is Mark Cox. In the Funnel is a group of sales coaches and consultants that help B2B sales teams dramatically improve revenue. Clients come to us when revenue growth is stagnated, or their sales team is not meeting expectations, or they need to recalibrate their sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. Our clients have enjoyed tremendous success working within the funnel, and please hear it straight from them by listening to the testimonial section of this website. What they'll tell you is there's two things that make us unique and different in our space. Number one, we have a process and a methodology. First, for understanding your current state, and then second, for building your sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. The second thing that makes us unique and different is that everybody within the funnel has run a material sales organization in their recent past. We're all practitioners. We don't have any theorists or teachers, and what that means is we can get in front of your sales team and run the next sales meeting, or join them on their next sales call to close your next large prospect. All of us have a passion for professional, disciplined, process-driven sales, and we'd be delighted to talk to you if you're looking to grow revenue for your company. Please feel free to reach out to us through this website at info@inthefunnel.com or by telephone. Thanks for taking the time to watch this.
The reason why I use 5X is because it's when you have something that's about 5 times your average deal size, that's when different things have to occur. And that 5X kind of works for a lot of different, for almost every company I work with. And so I kind of came onto that years ago, and it's like, yeah, that just kind of works. People get it. But so if you want that kind of deals, those kind of deals, you have to be prepared to go, you know what, we are going to commit to this over the long term, at least multi-year, at least. Right. And what that means is that as a company, we're going to understand that we've got to resource this. We've got to, from a change management standpoint, the executives have to endorse it and be involved with it and have those meaningful touch points over time. And other things are gonna suffer as a result.
Team, that was Lisa Magnuson, and she's the founder and CEO of Top Line Sales. And that's a sales consultancy that helps companies overcome the barriers to winning top line accounts. And these are accounts that are, let's call it 5X their normal deal size. She's also the author, by the way, of a fantastic book called The Top Sales Leader Playbook, How to Win 5X Deals Repeatedly. It's got a great foreword by Jill Conrad. Team, those of you who know me know this topic is really close to my heart because I spent about 4 years of my career doing only these types of deals, mega deals. And I think there's such a need for what Lisa does, as we talk about in this podcast, because most organizations aren't really set up to do mega deals or deals that would be 5 times the average deal size they normally do. They're just not set up that way. And so there's no structure, there's no process or methodology for a mega deal of that nature. In some cases, the organization's uncomfortable doing deals that size. You'd think that wouldn't be the case, but they don't have the things set up to be very comfortable in terms of ensuring those types of transactions end successfully. And Lisa's book, which is really well put together, has strategies, processes, tools, all the things that you need to sort of add that discipline so the organization can build the muscle to go after these 5X deals. It's just a great conversation with Lisa today. She's got real depth and experience in professional selling, as we'll come across in our discussion. I really enjoyed chatting with Lisa. I think you're going to really enjoy this podcast. And if you do, please like and subscribe the Selling Well podcast because your feedback's really important to us. So let us know what you think, and thank you for that. Here's Lisa Magnuson. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Mark. Thrilled to be here.
So a couple of things, Lisa. I got to call out. I was so excited for today's podcast because the subject matter of your latest book is really close to my heart. So the Top Sales Leader Playbook, How to Win 5X Deals Repeatedly, super close to my heart because I used to do only large deals. And then your background, where you started at Xerox as a Xeroid, not very close to my heart. Because at the same time, I actually started with Kodak. So while you were selling photocopiers, I was selling photocopiers. And boy, I must say, back in those days, the training for both companies was magnificent. But I got to be,
It was.
You bet on the better horse. You were with the right company. But
At that time, yes.
yeah, and back in those days, Xerox, what would they have been? Miller Hyman or spin selling back in those days?
Big spin selling, which is so funny because spin selling is still relevant today. I've got clients that still embrace it. If you look at the challenger sale model, you see a lot of evidence of spin selling in there. And sometimes I like to joke that if you cut my little veins, like little, spin selling things would come out.
Well, it's funny. On a podcast a couple of weeks ago, we had Matt Dixon, because it's the 10-year anniversary of the Challenger sale.
Uh-huh.
And he had nothing but reverence for Neil Rackham and spin selling. And they, the story of the Challenger sale came through Neil Rackham. They went and spoke to Neil Rackham before they built the Challenger sale. And that was just fantastic. Fantastic guy, by the way.
The Challenger sale, it was such a kind of a breakthrough at a time when I think, sales in general needed a breakthrough, kind of needed to break out of some of those old models that weren't working, unlike spin. And the fact that it was based on, real live, studies and, evidence and data. I love some of the points that have come out of that program in that book.
Yeah,
I recommend it all the time still.
Absolutely. Yeah, right there with you. Now let's talk about what you do, because I actually think the same way their timing was fantastic. I think your subject matter of, you call it the 5X deal with your company, top line sales. I used to call them mega deals.
I love that term.
When I was doing that was my ego talking mostly, by the way. But using those deals. But tell me a little bit about your firm and why there's such a need for help in this space, in the the 5X deal space. Terrible term, but elephant hunting, you know what I mean?
Whale hunting. So one of my good close colleagues is Barbara Weaver Smith, who wrote, Whale Hunters, and you mentioned Miller Hyman. Alice Hyman is actually on my board of advisors, and it was her father is the Hyman and Miller Hyman, and so really intimate with all of that awesome work in both cases. But the thing is, 5X deals, as I refer to them, mega deals, they're messy.
Yeah,
they are just messy. They are complex. They don't fit nicely into a sales process. They don't fit nicely into any CRM. You have to go backwards to move forwards. You have got into a milestone that you think is really important, and all of a sudden now you're going back because there's new people come into the equation, because there are so many people in general that come in, and that's just increasing over time because of companies really, they don't have an appetite for risk. And so any sort of a big change represents risk. So therefore, more scrutiny, more people involved. And to answer your question, Mark, the need to have a systematic approach, not just to get one. Most companies have one, the one they point to, the case study, they talk about it. All the salespeople talk about it, whether they were involved or not. But to be able to have an engine that repeatedly generates those 5X deals, that is a game changer for companies. Game changer. Changes their revenue profile, changes the investments they can make in the sales organization and elsewhere. It just ups their game, and with their current clients, future clients, it's just that thing that keeps paying. And you came from the banking world, so keeps paying dividends.
We sold a lot in the day to the banks. Only when we were doing the mega deals, exclusively into the banks. And so many of the things that's one of the reasons I love the book so much, to be honest with you, Lisa. One of the things that resonated so much as I was reading through it, two things kind of came to mind for me. One was, all of the advice in the council. I love the structure of the book, but all of the advice in the council really resonated because we lived through these things. I spent 4 years doing nothing but mega deals. And, the key learnings, even what you just shared there was you're selling externally, but with mega deals, there's a lot of internal selling because you're starting to do deals that are so big, the company's uncomfortable with them.
Yes. One of my sideline coaches, and I can't recall now who, makes that point. It's they don't fit within the structure of, January through December. Right. Here's our commission plan. It's like they just blow that out of the water. We have a policy around, evaluations or trials or this, and it's like those 5X deals don't fit into that model either. So it's like all the structures that work for the day-to-day business and the normal business don't always work for the 5X deals. And so you're exactly right. And you've lived it successfully. You are selling as much internally as you are externally. And that's why when you think about that account team, that dedicated account team, that comes together for a long period of time, generally to go after these deals, it's important that team has an internal executive sponsor. In addition to, you need at least one executive sponsor, from the prospect side or your client side if you're expanding business. But that internal one is just as important. They have to clear the path for you. They have to go, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to make this exception. We're going to bend these rules. We're going to make this investment. And I'm sure you saw that all the time.
We were really privileged. I must say that there was a lot of pain associated with these deals. I'm not going to lie. But one of the things that we were very privileged was we reported directly in at that time to the CEO. And so all those things were taken care of.
We had the main line.
we had the main line. And then, the things that we were working on, although they were highly, highly confidential, they were always listed as one of the top few priorities for the company for that year. So, we had a lot of leeway for many of the things we did. We had incredible support in terms of resources. It was still incredibly difficult. And then there was still enormous pressure. So right. The fun thing would have been, hey, we've got two options here. Either there's a champagne bottle that's going to pop, or I'm going to get fired. Those are the two. That's the two ways this ends up hitting out.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah. And so it was really an interesting experience. And obviously, again, the content of the book resonates so strongly with me because I lived it. And I know you're an expert because I've lived this, seeing the way you put this all together. The other thing I got to call out that I think was so great about the book was I love the fact you went to outside experts for their feedback and advice. And I think that's this key learning for sales leaders today, and we come across it all the time, or CROs. There's this belief that they have to be the single source of everything for the sales organization. And so they're kind of allergic to people like me or you who come in, hey, we don't need help, or I don't need outside consulting, or we don't need outside training, because they want to keep it all, but it's almost an impossible job these days. And because they actually don't open up, to outside parties, if they don't perform well, they don't last very long, as you've seen from the research. So
funny comment about that, you and I both have a sales process, just like we talk to our clients about having a sales process. And in both of our cases, a complex, large, mega deal or 5X deal sales process. But my sales process, in terms of vetting clients at the qualify stage, one of the things is that they have to have an openness to help. They have to be receptive to that.
Yeah.
If they are not, that's a no-go for me. Because I come in when it works. I come in, I don't do the deals for my clients. I come in and come alongside them as a facilitator and sort of, applying expertise. But I'm not the only one with expertise. it's helping the group, bring out their expertise. I don't have all the answers. So what I am an expert on is the process and how it should work and all of that. So you're right. And that's a high risk thing to bring somebody from the outside into your biggest opportunities. And that's why, that trust and that willingness and that receptivity, every single client that I work with has passed muster on that. They have that. They understand I will never talk about their business ever, period, no exceptions. They understand that I have their best interest at heart. They understand I don't need any credit, that I am just coming in for as long as it takes or as long as they need me to come alongside that account team and help them walk that journey. So yes, your whole thing about the sideline coaches, people really like the structure of my book because you've got 16 plays. What is the play? What are the steps? They're all very different and distinct, even though they all work together. And then you have the yellow and red flags. That was a suggestion by one of the VPs I interviewed. She goes, well, are you going to have anything about when it doesn't work? I'm like, well, now I am that you said that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, shout out. You know who you are if you're listening. So the yellow, red flags, when things are kind of going south. And and then the sideline coach. And I really worked hard to find that expertise. If you notice, they come from all over the world. And just, not long, just lend their expertise. And every single one of them, I feel like I got gold from them.
It's great. Very familiar names too. I know I've seen some work.
That's great.
Of some of them on the sideline, but just a great example of kind of walking the talk. The same way the folks you work with have to be open to outside feedback and counsel. I'm big one the same way. I think that's why I love interviewing people like you on this podcast. In some ways we do the same thing, and we train medium and small enterprise, their sales teams. We create large custom private training for larger sales organizations. We do consulting. But my belief is this whole business discipline needs so much help right now, professional sales, that there are these great thought leaders, and you're in a fantastic niche in my view.
Oh, thank you.
This mega, 5X deal, mega deal. So let's talk, Lisa, for some of the folks who are listening today, let's talk about some of these kind of core principles.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of these businesses, you see CEOs out there today, they're very used to doing business as usual. They want to do more business as usual. Maybe they find they're having a tough time actually dedicating time and effort and resources to going after these mega deals. So what's your feedback and advice there? How do they get started, and how do we make these commitments to go after the larger deals?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked that question a lot at the beginning of a year.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's the beginning of the year question. And so I'll tell you what not to do, what I see happen and doesn't work. So, if you are not ready to make a multi-year commitment, just don't even do it. It's like, sure, you can ask your sales, folks to put together their top hit list and their biggest prospect lists and all that kind of thing that does happen, every day in every sales organization. But if you really want to, if your intention is to go after really big deals, the reason why I use 5X is because it's like it's when you have something that's about 5 times your average deal size, that's when different things have to occur. And that 5X kind of works for for almost every company I work with. And so I kind of came onto that years ago, and it's like, yeah, that just kind of works. People get it. But so if you want that kind of deals, those kind of deals, you have to be prepared to go, we are going to commit to this over the long term, at least multi-year, at least. Right. And what that means is that as a company, we're going to understand that we've got to resource this. We've got to, from a change management standpoint, the executives have to endorse it and be involved with it and have those meaningful touch points over time. and other things are gonna suffer as a result, because
Right.
it's time. I call them war room sessions, but account strategy sessions, you know, those take time. And let's say, I would say on average, it's if you're going after something big and things are sort of developing, you're going to have a couple account strategy sessions every single month, and you're going to be doing very different things. Maybe
Yeah.
it starts with scoring the opportunity, and then it goes into learning more about doing some background research and all that kind of thing, which is not a once and done. That comes back up all the time, unfortunately, for salespeople who really don't like doing that. And then you go into pre-call prep, and then you go into maybe a competitive analysis. It just depends on what's happening and where you are, but there's just so much work that occurs, and this from some of your success with your mega deals. It's there's that journey is just packed with things that need to occur to get to the end of that journey and get that contract, which is the bottle of champagne that you mentioned.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a big commitment. That's time. You're going to see your people spending that kind of time. So it has to be, to answer your question, it's got to be that multi-year commitment, understanding that you're going to be doing this, more of this, and a little bit less of this,
Right.
that. Yeah. So, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
We were back in the day, we were very lucky in that, when we were assigned these things, I know you help companies start 5X deals, like go and
Mhm.
find them or strategize to create them. Or actually, once they've been started, help run that whole process and work with
Yeah,
them and coordinate that whole process.
I do.
We were a little more on the latter. So at that level, there's not a lot of, the starting is a multi-year process, which we're doing. But once one had a certain degree of qualification, then we assigned a team. Everybody brought in people from the different work streams
Yeah,
of finance, legal, operations, product, technology. And you're trying to marshal this team, and they all have day jobs.
absolutely.
You're trying to marshal this team to go after this event. And I really actually love this topic for a couple of reasons. So important for businesses. Also, it's really a bit of a discussion at times on change management and
It is.
leadership, trying to lead
Yep.
these teams where all these people don't directly report into you. And so I think also you bring up planning. I think there's a lot of things we learn about these. We call them the 5X deals or the mega deals. These are just fundamental, sales insights that actually do get passed down to basic deals or your average deal.
Yep, you do. You get better at your average deals by doing the 5X deals. And you brought up these teams where everybody generally reports to different groups, different managers, different divisions, even sometimes. And I think Deb Calvert, one of my subject matter silent coach experts, coined the term temporary teams.
Yeah.
And one thing that's really hard with temporary teams that come together around a project, in this case, it's generally a long-term project, is defining roles and responsibilities that might be very different than their actual job, their day job, as you said, roles and responsibilities. So like, let's say you're the VP of sales, your day job is VP of sales, you make decisions, you do planning, you've got budget, all that kind of stuff. Your role on the account team might be very different than that.
Yeah.
You're probably not in charge. The account quarterback is the person who should be in charge, or maybe the VP is the account quarterback. So there's no set rules, but the most where I see things go awry and get off track as this whole messy, complex sort of pursuit unfolds is where teams don't have clarity around roles and responsibilities that are in many cases different than their regular job roles and responsibilities.
Common themes, marshaling a culture around clarity. It's so important One of the things we found with these large deal teams that was so interesting was many of the folks who were coming on and being part of the team might have been the head of HR, might have been, the head of one product line. If it was multi-product line, opportunity. They actually loved being on the deal team.
They do.
It was something unique. It was something different. They loved the insight into the sales process, as long as it was well run. So as long as there was clarity and minutes for meetings and agendas for meetings,
yes,
and roles and responsibility, like all of these things you think are fundamental.
Yeah.
But in a lot of large corporations, they just don't exist.
It's true.
Pre-meeting, internal pre-meeting planning.
Yeah.
You're meeting with executives for a discussion on a mega deal. How about instead of 15 pages of PowerPoint, just saying I'm going to talk to you and you tell me what we do next, actually a page that says, we're walking into this meeting because we need decisions on these 3 things.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll give you the information 48 hours before the meeting so you can think about it.
Exactly. I have, as we talked about before, I've got my first LinkedIn learning course coming out in February or March. And
nice.
The topic is pre-call prep. And I have been doing this kind of work literally every week since I've had my company, which is like 17 years. It's still amazing to me. Salespeople still, in some cases, don't want to send an agenda in advance to their prospect. The topic is as relevant today, if not more, than it was years ago. And it is more because people have less patience, less time. Everybody's distracted. And so you have to be clear. Your prospect has to know that the meeting is going to be valuable for them, period, or they don't want to spend any time on it. And it's a salesperson's job to do everything, including the agenda in advance and getting their buy-in, but a lot more than that to make that happen.
I'm going to take a recording clip. And every time this comes up in one of our workshops or one of our consulting clients, I'm just going to play your voice instead of mine because they're so tired of hearing me say this. And you said it so much more eloquently than I did, but it's so important and it isn't done. And, when we start to look at the Gardner, and again, I know everybody likes to jump on the bandwagon of negativity and professional sales. I think there's amazing things taking place. But I absolutely think some of the Gardner research that comes back about buyers saying they're not getting value from interacting with sellers, I think some of that, there's always, some normalization, but some of that is very true because we walk in, we think we can ad lib something or improv. And here's the trick. If you're in Second City today doing improv, we had your friend Julie Hansen on, the podcast 2 weeks ago. What she enlightened me on is she goes, even people who do improv, they spend the time prepping for the improv because there's certain rules, and approaches.
They're professionals.
They're professionals. So they don't just walk on the stage and say, I'm funny. There are rules for people who are professionals at an improvisation. And I think today it's such low-hanging fruit for sales professionals to think about the desired outcome they want from a meeting. The core messaging. The research they do beforehand, the point of view in terms of insight or value they can provide. And hey, gang, let's assume we might face a few difficult questions along this discussion. What are we going to say?
Thinking about, when I was doing the building my LinkedIn learning course content, it was funny. I was working with my producer and I always have had that section on my pre-call prep form about, planning for what can go wrong and coming up with both a proactive, avoid the situation, and a reactive, can't avoid, happens in the meeting, kind of a response. And he called, his name's Jake, he goes, let's call it a pre-mortem. And I'm like, oh, I like that. So that's what we're calling it now, is kind of that pre-mortem instead of a post-mortem, figuring out in advance, what could happen. And so much more. I mean, it's the whole thing of adding value is for some reason a little bit foreign.
Yeah.
I was working with this one sales team recently, and they literally could not grasp this concept piece outside of their products and services.
Yeah.
So every time I talked about what value do you think your prospect is looking for right now based on where they are in their buying journey, they went straight to product. They literally just could not come outside of that. I go, well, okay, if they're at the beginning stages of their buying journey, what are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? They're probably looking for information. They're probably trying to, is this problem worth solving? Who are we going to have to pull into this? They're doing, thinking, feeling a lot at that stage. What might be helpful for them?
Yeah.
They still couldn't. Nothing.
I think if the folks, by the way, listening to this podcast, you're so spot on. I think if the folks listening to this took only two things away from it, the first being come up with some structure for pre-call planning, and it sounds through your LinkedIn program, which I want to hear more about, your LinkedIn learning program coming live in February, March. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, thank you.
And then so first of all, just plan for that. Just plan for that. Secondly, this concept of add value with the conversation, and it's not value if it leads immediately to my solution, right? Think about the business outcomes these people are trying to drive to. Frankly, reality is our clients and prospects have never needed help more than right now. We're recording. We're in January of 2022. We're exiting hopefully we're exiting a pretty unique period in history. Businesses have understood this is going to be part of a new reality. So we all got a little leeway at the beginning of COVID, to figure things out. But now businesses are saying we got to perform again.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. So objectives, goals, KPIs, our clients and prospects are back on the track of having to actually perform in a given year. So they need our help to get to those better outcomes.
100%.
So if we're in a position to add value, then they want to chat with us, or they'll chat with us again. Anybody can get a first meeting. It's the second meeting that becomes tough, or deals stall, or somebody goes quiet.
Yep.
And we're all amazed when that happens. We can't figure out why.
Right. Because we weren't spot on. We couldn't put ourselves in their shoes, and we didn't add the value that they were seeking. So because they are sort of distracted and they're only can focus on their A priorities, they moved on.
Yeah.
And exactly. And the reason why I'm so passionate about pre-call prep is because that's where it gets figured out. And for the bigger deals, that just becomes part of the account strategies or the war room sessions. But that's where the account team really always gets it right. If you have a strong account team, they will, through debate, discussion, and then decision, they'll get it right. And it gives them the opportunity, whether it's pre-call prep or just account strategy work, to get it right. And so, for the everyday account executive, account manager, it's pre-call prep. For those big teams going after the mega deals, 5X deals, it's pre-call prep plus account strategy. And those two things just get it done. They do. It'll work.
I've heard on different podcasts you've done, and, I've seen some things on YouTube that you've done, and they're all great. But you said you've been doing this, as a matter of course, way back from your earliest days. You've just seen such an uptick in terms of results from doing it. I wish I could say I was as smart as you to do this out of the gate, but I didn't, for a few years. And it was really, I think, looking back now, about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was doing some really complex negotiation, I felt I was negotiating far above my fighting weight. And, we were with lawyers and professional negotiators and professional buyers.
Intimidating.
Scared to death.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I could default to, and there was this interplay on complex contracts. There's this interplay between different terms and conditions, and experience really matters. If you give on one, it's got an implication on 3 or 4 others.
Yeah.
And I remember working with our team, and we would just plan and plan and plan and plan to the, when somebody said, why are you asking for that? Down to the explanation we would use and the example we would use. And then, you started slowly to get some better outcomes. And so the same thing with a sales meeting today, just asking someone, what's our desired outcome? High, medium, or low? What are you hoping is going to happen from this meeting? And, we get a lot of response where somebody goes, that's a good question, Mark. It's not a good question. That's the fundamental reason you'll exist. We're paying to send you there for a reason. You need the answer to that one.
Totally agree.
So Lisa, I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about what you're doing with LinkedIn Learning. I know that's really set up for an exclusive group and very few in professional sales. What are you doing there? That sounds great.
The LinkedIn Learning organization is top notch. And I am so proud to be one of the instructors on the LinkedIn Learning team. For your viewers and listeners, if you go to the LinkedIn Learning platform, you can expect so many courses. Just in the sales track, you've got beginning, intermediate, advanced courses, and they will be top notch. It takes like 5 months to produce just one course. So mine will be on pre-call prep, coming out in February or March, and I hope it's going to be popular.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. So tell me a little bit more, Lisa, where else can people outside of LinkedIn Learning, how would they get in touch with you if they wanted to learn more and get some more help on things like 5X deals and mega deals?
Yeah. Love to hear from people who want to learn more about how to get involved with 5X deals. Probably the best place is my website, toplinesales.com. They can click through if they want to buy my book, which is available on Amazon. If they save their Amazon receipt number, they can put that into, I think it's on the resource page or the book page on my website, and they can get a free gift of my 5X deal success assessment that I use with my clients all the time. It's just a 4-page sort of an assessment. Clients will do a pre-assessment, post-assessment at the end of the year. So it's just kind of a really good assessment tool. But they can also find my pre-call plan guide as a free download. They will then be subscribed to my newsletter, but I don't spam, just once a month, top line tips. And also they can click through some of my Bright Talk webinars on the Sales Experts platform on Bright Talk. So lots of stuff there, toplinesales.com. And they can also reach out to me directly from my website.
Just fantastic. You and I we'd keep chatting about this stuff until 8 o'clock at night. I never get tired of talking. I love large deals, 5X deals, mega deals. And I also, joking aside from the start, I have nothing but respect for, there was this sort of golden era back in, the early days of my career where when you got hired on by somebody like Xerox or Kodak or Motorola or IBM, they actually shipped you away for 3 or 4 months worth of training before you did anything. And frankly, a lot of the training was spectacular.
Yeah, world class.
It was world class, and the investment in people was world class. And there's so many great thought leaders out there like yourself who got that start.
I know.
And just kept going up through the ranks. Lisa, I just want to say thank you so much for joining today. What a pleasure to meet you. I loved your book, so I couldn't wait to connect in. Great to meet you, and really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate being a guest on your show.